So, the sun sets, the rainbows appear, and it makes me want to share. So here I am. And I actually have a journal written. This one from 327, and the Mayan day was 9 wisdom, owl, or vulture. So, here goes. It's time to root out and explore into yet another layer of separation. It's amazing how one can go along so well, seemingly so, for so long, carrying these things all unaware. Then one day, one moment, the awareness comes. One just suddenly knows or sees something, and we're off to the next level or layer of union. Words. This time, it's as if I was told by an invisible one, and maybe I was, while listening to Toni's first reading for me, which was only half an hour. I pondered how it was that if I were to order it today, I'd order the longer one, the 1 hour reading. These things from her are simply divine. So it went from there to wondering how it was that one could just turn the divine on and off like that, limiting it to 30 minutes or going on for an hour. How can that be, I wondered? Is that not source speaking? My journals aren't like that. They just go as long as they go. Well, I know that it is source speaking, yet she is able to decide the length of it. So, and thus, I saw into yet a further layer of separation I have somehow crafted between self and source. Now, there really is no such thing as separation, and that comes first. It must be known to be a mirage, it seems to me. That's an important foundation, for we love truth here. It must come first. But, and here, I simply admit my true, honest state, my state of unknowing. There's true, and then there's 3D. Yeah, 3D is largely a mystery to me. I admit it. So I'm just open to it. I'm just watching, just observing it. I know there's truth at the heart of it, but meanwhile, there's precious little of it that's understood. And thus comes another one, another small gem of understanding. This is also the seeming separation of mind and spirit. Right now, spirit in me is doing fine, is conscious and aware. I can't really say that for mind, for higher mind. I find it participates either less or even silently. I just don't have much understanding of, of anything. And that's quite okay. That's the neat part. At first, it was just strange, but now it's neat, even wonderful. To be and to find such contentment in not knowing? Well, who'd have thunk it, right? From the outside, from the 3D mind perspective, that's simply crazy. But it's not. And from the inside, the spirit or soul or divine side, if you will, we find that it's as far from crazy as one can get. It's really quite wonderful, this ability to contentedly dwell in, I don't know. So, back to the original thing that was shown to me just a bit ago about how Toni or anyone can seemingly turn on and turn off the flow of the divine. Due to my current fast becoming previous understanding of the self and the flow, are not wholly one. Let's see, due to my, it's got dashes, current fast becoming previous understanding, the self and the flow are not wholly one, WHO. There's the self, then there's the flow that comes when it will, does what it will, and of course goes when it will. Yet, and this is key, is critical, the flow through Toni is certainly the divine. There is no question in me about that. So it is inescapable. She can turn it off and turn it on, and do so as part of her livelihood, for the readings are not free. How very interesting. I just love this. Okay, I'm going to step out a second here and say, you know, that's likely not the way of it from her perspective. I don't see that, you know, that she has a sense of, okay, I'm going to turn on the divine flow now, and now I'm going to turn it off. That's my perception, okay? I'm not speaking for her. All right. So, okay, this totally reminds me of the years I spent where I was unwilling to alter so much as a word of the journals. For so long, I truly felt the flow of the divine in them. And to me, they were simply sacred. Somehow I knew that. As an aspect of my respect for that, I would alter nothing beyond a misplaced pronunciation or a misspelling. One day, I suddenly realized that I had begun to make small alterations in them to replace a word with a better word, a synonym, something like that. As I was observing self at this, well, I was just watching, knowing it was different. It was unusual, but still just watching. What I noticed was that I was very much in the divine flow as this was happening. I could feel it, feel the rightness of it, sense that familiar sacredness, and I respected that. Had I not sensed the presence of the divine acting, I would likely have stopped myself from making these edits. Well, excuse me, mind. I would have let mind stop me from making these edits. Things that make you go, So, I just continued to watch. Was it a period of weeks or was it months? I don't know. I just know that as I continued watching self doing this, I came to know it was right. I came to have confidence in it. This helped or caused me to internally adjust my understandings around reality. What had been verboten before was suddenly quite okay. Some more, It just flowed on like that. Pretty soon I was watching the self adding to the written journals as I read them into the webcam, as you've seen me do here. Inserting little ad-libs here and there, more and more. Sometimes one would go in just as it was written, but not that often. It was something to adjust to. What part of me was adjusting? Obviously, the main part, the important part, the spirit being I am, needed and needs no adjustment. It was and is already, even instantly, so content with the new way of freely editing the journals. Yet, it appears clear now that it was mind that required an adjustment in its perception or definition of reality. Mind had to catch up. Well, the lifesaver, if you will, to this was that I knew and could distinguish heart from head, the voice of mind from that of the inner being. And mind already knew of its secondary place, subject to heart. Now, it didn't always and doesn't always cooperate willingly or instantly, but at least we were beyond its initial, instant, and positive rebellion at anything heart did that mind didn't understand. Initially, all there was this constant rebellion. Mind didn't take kindly to being ousted from the seat of authority in my life. So, okay, I see now it was mind doing the adjusting, sorting and separating out. Will we always be doing this? Seems like a rather endless process at times. Still, it's so wonderful as each new vista is seen, each new distinction between head and spirit or heart gives that much more breathing room, more space to just be. And I like it. So, I was recalling how, over time and fairly recently, I watched this change take place via how I journal. After some years of so highly respecting them, or that's how it seemed to me at the time, things suddenly changed. It's not that I respected them less. It's more that I respected me more. I both saw and felt how I was one with that flow. We even have motorcycles out here in the country. Kismet, please, no. It's not like I don't hear it, little dog. You've alerted. I both saw and felt how I was one with that flow. I watched the flow enter into my life that much deeper, take over more territory of the everyday life, as it were, converting it to the divine. Now, that's one way of seeing it and saying it. One can also say or see that this was an internal layer of separation that was removed. First, there was the divine, the journal flow, then there was I. Later, the I merged with the divine more and more, and the net result, far less separation. I rejoiced in that. It felt very freeing, leading as it did to a whole reassessment of self, of the relationship of self to the divine. Now, right now, that doesn't make sense to me because self is the divine. But anyway, I'll give it to you the way it's written. One doesn't think these things. It's more like they think you. It's not like dancing. It's rather like you're being danced, like the divine is within dancing you. If you're in heart when you listen or read this, it can or it will make sense. Okay, now back to today and the new layer of separation going away. And it's brand new just yet. I haven't even paused upon waking to have coffee and the morning tinctures, but came straight to the journal. I even felt told to do this. Well, better to say I received the suggestion. From whom? I don't consciously know, but heart knows. And the knowing is so close, I can almost taste it. This is delightful. So, pardon me while I go over and over it in different ways, but I'm wanting to taste every flavor of it. If I ever saw the flow of the divine in anyone beyond self, that would be Toni. Now, of course, there are many more, such as Ramana, Yogananda Muji, and some very simple folk without big names. There are so many. Still, one thing is for certain to me, and that's that Toni is firmly seated in the flow of the divine. This heart simply knows that and quite rejoices in it, as can be seen in a number of my recent journals. It is so exciting to find another pure outlet for the divine, and one who is actually alive in body and accessible. But I digress. So, that being the case, then this heart looks at, wait, I can't say for sure it's heart looking. Probably not, since heart just knows things. Anyway, when I'm observing how Toni works, and I must tell you, I was quite put off by some of it at first, her way of arranging her readings, one sees something else than what I see in my life. What was I put off by? At first, and this has nothing to do with the readings, because at first I'm not a person that goes out and gets readings, folks, so it just didn't enter my head to do that. At first, her seemingly extreme self-confidence, it put me off a bit. I wondered at the source of her information and the powerful confidence in it that she displayed. It seemed odd to me. I knew I did not have that within this self, that level or layer of confidence. You know, you wait a few days and you change. Of course I have it, but I didn't have conscious access to it. It even extended to her promoting her works, her book, her classes, and so on. That too felt strange. I could tell I was much different inside, at least I felt different. Yet I found it exciting, as I felt she was in the flow of the divine. So it took some time for me to test and come to know this. I signed up for her newsletter and, of course, subbed her YouTube channel, Sacred Sarah. At a certain point, even though she seemed so internally different than I was, I felt it was time to really test it out. So I ordered one of her readings to help me decide. A half-hour angelic human reading, she calls it. Well, within the first 5 minutes of listening to it, I was a deep convert. I have probably listened to it 100 times already and have not yet put it away. It is so very deep and so totally right on. Though she read me cold, neither knowing who I am nor anything about me beyond the basic requested birth date info, she hit so many deep things right on target that there's just no mistaking truth, a true divine connection. Okay, that was just to explain or fill in a few details. Meanwhile, back to this morning. How was it, I wonder, that she could do that? Could give half-hour or hour readings. I saw then that she had integrated the divine more deeply into her 3D life than I had. Yet, I had something that seemed to be reverence in the way, still pondering. Just as I could once not alter a word of my journals, so separate from self was their sacred flow. Well, that's how I saw it. Now I see yet another layer of separation I have unwittingly placed between me and the divine. She has joined it up more with mind, being able to make mind specifications, such as the length of the reading, the time that she chooses, making appointments and that kind of thing. I don't make appointments for the journals. They just come when they do. And I'm excited. Why is that? We don't get shown things for no reason. It's usually when something is well on its way out that we are finally able to see it and where it had been within us, the spot it had occupied in our being. We see its unreality and how it was woven in with our identity, our beliefs. So it's a very good thing. This has likely some little way to go yet in revealing itself to me. More observing will yield more and more understanding, and at deeper depths, as long as it's done from heart. Still, the fact that it was revealed this morning is precious. And likely, friends, had I not come here to journal it, it's quite possible it may have been lost. Mind can do that, can cover over things, or so thoroughly distract us that precious gems are all but discarded. We don't mean to do that, but we do. We let it happen, particularly when we leave mind in charge of things. Life is so much better, I've found, when lived from heart. Now, to the equally exciting part, the part where I realized I hadn't thought this up or perceived it unaided. This was told to me this morning. She is now revealing that it was her, my guide, who showed it to me. This is a first. Conscious contact so direct that it was like someone talking to me. Not that I heard words or anything. Okay, I feel it. Some of you are now wondering, well, how does she communicate with the 12D soul family? It's different, friends. That comes from deep within heart. It doesn't have a form or a face or seemingly a separate identity. How do I describe this? When the 12Ds talk, they don't do it from 3D, they do it from 5D, where you and I also abide. So, it's in another layer or level of our being where I receive these conversations. I'm equally close to them as to the guide who spoke with me this morning, only it's other dimensional. The surprise of the morning is that she felt so almost present right here in 3D. I felt her as if almost in the room with me, not at all other dimensional. Oh dear, I don't know how well that covers it. For those who have had such experiences, I feel it will be enough. And for those of you who haven't yet, I can only say, stay out of thought, out of mind with it. Those can't even touch it. Truly, friends, we are going from thinking to sensing. It's a different way of perceiving, and it opens up broad vistas of things quite unknown and largely inaccessible to mind. So, I guess that covers it. It's been a good while since an actual experience or event brought me to the journal to record it. That's how they began all those decades ago, as a way to keep track of and preserve the special happenings or understandings that came to me, to help sort them out and not forget. So, in a way, this feels like that, only way up the spiral staircase of light on a much higher rung. Not that higher is better or lower is worse. No such thing. Heart just rejoices to draw ever closer to truth, to the divine, and it celebrates that with simple joy. This we all understand. Oh my goodness, look at my face. See, I had the page that I was reading from covering me, so I didn't see the rainbow there. Okay, friends, namaste. Talk with you again soon. There's true, and then there's 3D. Yeah, 3D is largely a mystery to me. I admit it. So I'm just open to it. I'm just watching, just observing it. I know there's truth at the heart of it, but meanwhile, there's precious little of it that's understood. And thus comes another one, another small gem of understanding. This is also the seeming separation of mind and spirit. Right now, spirit in me is doing fine. So, the sun sets, the rainbows appear, and it makes me want to share. So here I am. And I actually have a journal written. This one from 327, and the Mayan day was 9 wisdom, owl, or vulture. So, here goes. It's time to root out and explore into yet another layer of separation. It's amazing how one can go along so well, seemingly so, for so long, carrying these things all unaware. Then one day, one moment, the awareness comes. One just suddenly knows or sees something, and we're off to the next level or layer of union. Words. This time, it's as if I was told by an invisible one, and maybe I was, while listening to Toni's first reading for me, which was only half an hour. I pondered how it was that if I were to order it today, I'd order the longer one, the 1 hour reading. These things from her are simply divine. So it went from there to wondering how it was that one could just turn the divine on and off like that, limiting it to 30 minutes or going on for an hour. How can that be, I wondered? Is that not source speaking? My journals aren't like that. They just go as long as they go. Well, I know that it is source speaking, yet she is able to decide the length of it. So, and thus I saw into yet a further layer of separation I have somehow crafted between self and source. Now, there really is no such thing as separation, and that comes first. It must be known to be a mirage, it seems to me. That's an important foundation, for we love truth here. It must come first. But, and here, I simply admit my true, honest state, my state of unknowing.